Okay, this is lesson 8, and we're going to talk about creating files with the IDE. I'm creating a new folder in the Documents folder. And then I create another folder inside of this. And simply name it 1. I'm going to use the IDE to create the files. You can see that immediately after creating it, it doesn't have a name or a type. To give it a name and a type, right-click on the file and select Save As. To specify a type, we click here. And for this file, we choose HTML. And we name it Index. Remember that with a web page, the first file the server will open is the file that has the name of Index. Press Save to save it. And we can see the file inside of our new folder 1. In the same way, we create another file of type JavaScript. Of course, you can name it anything you want. After saving it, we can see it in the folder. I'm closing it here so that we can drag the whole folder into the window. I double-click on the files to open them, and press this button to remove the list. You need to write these lines of code for yourself. This white circle is the IDE telling you that you have changes that haven't been saved. After saving, the circle disappears. After you do the same with the JavaScript file, I'll show you a couple of things. When you are writing code with an IDE, the IDE is always helping you to do it. And the extensions you installed are also helping in many ways. The first extension I want to talk about is Beautify, which means making the code look better. You can see that my IDE now looks darker. This has nothing to do with this lesson. It's just that I changed it in my preferences. And I did it this way. It's not important that you do this. You can have whatever theme you want. Returning to the extension Beautify, You can see that it's the first one in the list. Possibly when you open this list, it will look like this. At first, this might be a little confusing, but you will get used to opening and closing windows and adjusting things to see what you want to see. Possibly you will want to click on this symbol that shows a menu and then choose Show Installed Extensions. When you click on an extension, it will open a tab that shows you information and instructions about the extension. This extension is excellent for fixing the format of your code. Here, I will mess up the format of the code. When you are writing code, it's easy to end up with code that is not well formatted. I'm closing the list of extensions just because I want to. And to use the extension of Beautify, press F1. For me, it's the first one in the list because it's the last one that I used. But for you, you will need to search for it, like this. When you click on it, your code will be fixed. I'm messing up the code again to show you that the next time you use it, it will be the first one in the list. Therefore, you only need to press the F1 key and then the Enter key. And everything is fixed once again. With our code written, we can open the website in the browser. If you put a different name than I did for your JavaScript file, make sure that name is here in your HTML file. Right-click on the HTML file and choose Open in Browser. You can see that your site opened in the browser. Press F12 to open the testing environment. Or even better, use the Go Live service. I'm closing the website and then clicking Go Live. As you recall, every time I click Save in the IDE, it refreshes the browser automatically. When you press F12, you'll see this. You always see this in the testing environment immediately after starting the Go Live service. Simply press this button to erase the information in the console window. Now you have everything you need to begin experimenting and testing your code. In order to not be afraid of making changes in the code, you should keep copies of the files. You can make all the folders you want. Creating and organizing files is a skill you need to develop. It requires practice and experience, so do it a lot. Here in the Documents area, I go to the folder that has our files. I don't want to worry about destroying good code, so I right-click on the folder and choose Copy. Then I right-click in the blank area and select Paste. Or for me, I like right-clicking and dragging the folder much better. From now on, you're developing programming skills. You need to feel comfortable doing whatever you want to your code. You can destroy whatever code you want because you always have copies. If you do an hour of good work on your code, save it and make a copy. You will have to develop your own way of organizing folders, because poorly organized folders quickly creates a disaster where you cannot maintain anything. And with that, I want to cover one more thing before ending this lesson. I want to talk about the file and the program that opens it. Here we have our JavaScript file, and I'm going to close it in the IDE. If I double-click on the file, it opens again in the IDE. I'm closing it again, and then I'm going to move the Explorer window so that you can see the menu that's going to display. If I right-click on the JavaScript file and choose Open With, and then select a different application to open the file, we have the same file and the same contents, but it's being opened and interpreted by another application. I close this application, and then when I double-click on the JavaScript file, it opens in the IDE. This tells us that even though we've opened the file in another application, the computer is still configured to open it in the IDE. If we want the computer to continue opening this file in a different application, we need to do this. I close the tab in the IDE again, this time when I right-click the file and choose Open With, I don't simply choose another application, but first I choose this. In this window, before I choose an application, I'm going to check this box. Now I can choose whichever application I want and then press OK. I close the application and we can see that the icon for the file has changed. Now, every time I double-click on this kind of file, the computer will use this application to open it. Possibly after installing Visual Studio Code, your computer isn't configured to use it for opening JavaScript files. If this is the case, you can do this. If Visual Studio Code isn't in the list that you can see, you need to click this option below. You can see that the icon is now for Visual Studio Code, and every time you click on a JavaScript file, the computer uses Visual Studio Code to open it. And with that, we end this lesson. In the next lesson, we continue with functions.